eventually they'll be tonguing it down and busting it open soon enough. Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel, Apparently Ashley, and today we're talking about Married at First Sight, Season 13, Episode 10. So this week's episode was focused on trust and intimacy. So the experts sent over some activities for the couples to do. They all got a visit from Dr. Viviana, and they were just making sure that their sex life was good and healthy, making sure they're taking steps towards being intimate, checking where their trust levels are at, and just making sure that overall they were like where they quote unquote should be at this point in the experiment, because at this point we're halfway done. So this episode was a little juicy. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started with the first couple. All right, y'all, we're gonna start out with Rachel and Jose because they were the highlight, okay? It went down with them. So let me paint the picture. Rachel and Jose are like chilling in the clubhouse in their apartment. Apparently, Rachel calls Jose by another man's name and he flips. He's like explosive. He's throwing F-bombs, telling her to get out, talking about I'm gonna throw my ring at you. And she was just like, who you talking to? Like, you're not gonna talk to me like this. Do you think that's okay? And she ends up leaving to go talk to one of the producers. So she's outside of the apartment and he locks her out, y'all. Accidentally, according to him, but we gonna get there. Locks her out. She's banging on the door. He sleep. It's like 1 a.m, so he's not answering. She then banging on Myrla's door. She sleep. Banging on Brett's door. She sleeps. So then she's calling her friends because it's 1 a.m. I'm locked out of my apartment and I'm not about to just sit in this hallway. So like, I need to call and tell somebody. So off rip, I'm like, that's gotta be embarrassing because now you have to explain that your husband locked you out and then tell them like what happened or whatnot. And so I'm just like, this is bad. The next morning, they're talking in the kitchen and she was like, do you think how you reacted to that whole thing was okay? And he was like, apparently not. And I'm like, not apparently not. Like, clearly you don't even see how you were wrong in this situation. And so they're going back and forth a little bit. And she was just like, you know, my parents raised me better than to be spoken to like that by anybody. So like, you're not gonna talk to me like that. He was being real nonchalant about all of it. He was just kind of like, okay. Like he's even smiling here and there. Like, I don't know if that was out of nervousness or if he really wasn't taking this seriously or what, because I mean, there are cameras in their face while they're having this very important discussion, but she was just like, okay, I'm not about to put up with this. So she was just like, I can't be your wife, like under these conditions. And so she was like, I'm about to go. And he was like, all right, cool. There's some boxes in the closet if you need them. And like, I'll help you move anything you need help with. And she was just like, okay. And I'm like, not you being petty. And so it was just so infuriating to see him act like this. And like, in my mind, I already feel like he has this like concept of what a man should be and how a man should act and stuff like that. And so I feel like she called him out his name and he was like, well, I'm a man, so a man needs to respond like this. And so he just like got super abrasive and aggressive about the whole thing because that's how a man should respond. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, she's in the room with the producer and another producer comes out and she's like, so you're not about to fight for your marriage? And he was just like, I'm not about to convince her to be with me. And so Rachel was like, you know what? Typically, I run from my relationships and I always look back and I'm like, dang, I should have said this, I should have said that. So she was like, you know what? Let me go out here and talk to him. So she sits down, pulls out this letter that she wrote to him about like 2 weeks ago. The letter was basically saying like, I feel like you're controlling. Like, I thought in this marriage, I was gonna plan everything with my husband, but turns out my husband planned everything for me already. I feel like you're not compromising with me and like, I don't know what we doing. And he was like, hold on, you got this whole letter with you that you've been holding from me for like 2 weeks and now you're gonna say something? Like, how do you think that makes me feel? And I was like, okay, pause on the play. I get where Jose is coming from because if my boyfriend brings something up to me, my natural response is to kind of be like, why didn't you say this before? I've had to learn, I'm still learning that everyone's not as like direct or like as open with expressing their emotions as I am. And so like from his perspective, he's not gonna bring something up if I just do it one time. Like he's gonna look for like the pattern in things and be like, okay, she's done this X amount of times. So like, this is like sufficient enough for me to like want to bring up and discuss this with her now. But from my mind, when he's naming off them things, I'm like, so you've been keeping tabs on me? Like, it just feels like a shot here, a shot there, a shot everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, why didn't you say this before? Like, you just been holding on to all this, gathering all this evidence, and then hitting me with it all at once. Like, I'm defensive now. You know, I get where Jose was coming from, but it wasn't helping the situation. Press play back on them. She's just like, you can't admit when you're wrong. What are we doing? And it kind of ends open-ended. Like, there definitely was not a resolution to all that. Fast forward a little more into the episode, and all the girls get together, all the guys get together, and Rachel and Jose are telling this story separately to their groups. And Jose was leaving out all of the important details. And he was telling the guys, like, yeah, I accidentally locked the door. Like, you know, I was just doing my nightly routine. Like, I locked my property. And so, like, I deadbolted the door. And shout out to the guys for calling him out on that stuff, mainly Gil, because he was just like, you don't just accidentally deadbolt a door. Like, what are you talking about? And the guys were like, I mean, did you reach out to her? Like, did you even see if she was okay? And he was like, no, I didn't know where she went. Pause. One thing I have learned from my man is men care about the safety of their woman. For him to know that she wasn't home and he still locked the door, whether it was an accident or not, you weren't even thinking about the fact that she's not in your house, and you didn't reach out to her to see where she was, when she coming back, what she doing, nothing like that. That tells me what I need to know about him. Like, you couldn't even put your ego to the side to make sure that she was okay, because as a man, like, your woman's friends and family, loved ones, all that stuff is looking at you as responsible for her safety. So, like, if something happens to her, they looking at you and they're like, what happened? Where was she? What was she doing? And if you sitting there looking like I don't know, then, like, you getting blamed. He was not telling the whole story. There was plot holes and all of that stuff. And then she was just saying, like, I don't love him anymore, because, like, if this is who he is, I cannot be married to him. And for me, it was the fact that he wasn't even apologetic. He didn't look sorry. He didn't say sorry. And it was just like no accountability whatsoever. And so, like, I understood where she was coming from. Like, the fact that you can just act like that and talk to me like that, and then for you to just respond like, well, apparently that wasn't okay. Like, you don't even know that that's not okay. Like, nah, we can dismiss this now. Oh, plot twist. You want to know what name she called him? Johnny. It wasn't like she said an ex-boyfriend's name. Like, they're literally always talking to each other and about each other. So, like, for her to accidentally call him the name of another person who's going through this, like, Jose, hush. After all of that mess, let's move on to Michaela and Zack. They are still a little rocky. They're getting better, but I am starting not to like Zack as much, because he is really harping on how Michaela reacts to situations. I'm always try to understand both sides. So from his perspective, since that's the type of reactions he's used to in his past relationships, I can understand why he's like, this is a deal breaker for me. Like, if another one of my partners acts like this, then I'm done. However, on the other side, Michaela's apologized. She acknowledged that it's wrong, and she is trying to get better. And so it's kind of like, where is the middle ground here? Like, how are y'all gonna move forward? Because Zack is over here talking like he's done. He cannot get over this. He said that he is scarred from this reaction, basically insinuating that this is permanent damage, because as Dr. Viviana pointed out, scars do not go away. And he's just really having a hard time moving past this. And Michaela was telling him, like, I really feel like you're beating me down with this because you keep bringing it up. Like, how are we gonna move forward? And to Zack, he doesn't understand how he's beating her down. That doesn't make sense to him. I feel like Zack is that person in a relationship who's used to being the golden one, like the one who he does everything right. Like, he's not used to like being checked, essentially, like being told like you need to fix this. I definitely think he's struggling with that. And he did have this breakdown after Dr. Viviana left, and he was saying just like, I just wanted to be married so badly. And like, this is just not what I thought it was gonna be. Like, it's not working out. Like, this is literally killing me. And I'm just like, I think he had this, I don't think he understands that like relationships, let alone a marriage, takes a lot of grace, a lot of patience, and understanding that you are with a flawed human being. Like, you cannot just picture it to be this certain way, like all rainbows and butterflies and daisies all the time. You know what I'm saying? So he's really struggling with that. And in order for this to work, he's going to have to move past her reactions. All right, let's move on to Brett and Ryan. So Ryan finally admitted that he's waiting on these butterflies from Brett and that he just doesn't like her as much as she likes him. And he was talking to Dr. Viviana and he was saying like, you know, I want to be at work and I want to be like excited to come home to my wife and like throw her up against the wall and just make out with her. And she was kind of like, that only happens in movies. Like, that is not an everyday regular thing. Like, that's like birthdays, anniversaries, like maybe when you're like it's a drunken night, but that's not gonna happen all the time. And so she was like, do you want something long term or do you just want this like sexual fantasy thing? He pulled a Johnny. He had to take a reset. So he went to his apartment for a couple of days to really think about everything that he's feeling or not feeling towards Brett. And he came back and he said he felt better, and they ended up doing tantric yoga where it like helps them get more intimate and closer to each other, and they're like sitting on each other's laps and all this kind of stuff. And he said it really did help, and like they felt closer. They were like, I want to be best friends with you, and yay. And so hopefully that gets them on the right track. I do just feel bad for Brett though, because when Ryan was saying like, you know, I just don't feel these sparks and feelings for her, like she was crying because she was like, I'm used to being in this position in a relationship where the other person is unsure about me. Like, oh, I like you, but, or you're amazing, but. Ryan was like, well, I'm not saying anything negative about you. And I was just like, it's not about negativity following the but. It's just there's no certainty, you know? So I feel bad for her. All right, next up is Myrla and Gil. So of course, Kissgate came up again because Dr. Viviana was there talking about their sex life or lack thereof. And Myrla was saying like, you know, they haven't kissed yet, but she's fine with where they are on their like intimacy level. And Gil was like, you know, it could be better. Gil was just like, you know, I'm still in the place where like, if you don't give me a kiss, I am going to ask for a divorce. And Myrla was just like, well, you don't have to worry about that. Like, I'm not worried about it, so I don't know why you are, because that basically tells me that like she's going to kiss him at some point. And that's what he took away from it too. And guess what? She kissed him twice. So finally, this whole kissing thing can be put to rest. She gave the man a kiss on the lips. It was just a peck, but eventually they'll be tonguing it down and busting it open soon enough. That was the biggest thing with them. Nothing else really happened. So yay, Myrla and Gil. All right, last, let's talk about Bao and Johnny. Not really much to say about them. They were top-notch intimate couple this episode. They were playing this game that the couple sent them about rolling the die and licking or touching certain places or whatever, and they was getting down and nasty, okay? They talked about how they had sex multiple times. It was good, wholesome, vanilla sex. But I was saying like, you know, like we have time to like grow and do a variety of things. Like it'll get there. And she also said like, I want to have sex every day or every other day. And Johnny was like, all right, say less. So they're good. They're on the up and up. So yay. Overall with the couples, I was noticing this trend where I think the guys were really romanticizing marriage, and they had this certain vision of what they wanted their wife to look like or act like or how to treat them. They're really struggling with like how to meet their wives where they're at, because they're not getting what they thought they were going to get. And it's just so interesting because I feel like typically that's how the woman feels, because like typically women just want like the wedding, but like not really prepared for the marriage necessarily. Not to stereotype, but y'all know what I'm saying. But now I feel like the guys were kind of doing that. Like they were just like, I want to be married. I want to be married. But they're not realizing the work that this takes, or that like you're marrying somebody who's already a whole person and has their own personality, but you just want them to fit into your life. And so that's just what I noticed. So hopefully these guys really work on having more patience with their wives. And like I said, just meeting them where they're at. All right, y'all, that wraps up my reaction to this week's episode of Married at First Sight, season 13, episode 10. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, go ahead and press that button below and give me a thumbs up while you're down there. And don't forget to comment below. Let me know what you thought about this episode. How'd you feel about Rachel and Jose, or about Bao and Johnny getting it on, you know? So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.